Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of This Week in the World of Football. This is our Christmas Eve edition, episode number 376 for December 24th, 2024. I'm your host, Randy Snow. On this week's show, the first round of the college football playoffs is in the books. The AF1's Wilkes-Barre team finally gets a nickname, and a rare play happened in the NFL for the first time since 1976. But I'm not here all by myself. Across the table from me, as always, is my son, Adam.
Potential toilet bowl champion. I am in the toilet bowl of my fantasy league. I'm not happy about it.
Didn't you go up against Kyle last week in your
No,
fantasy league?
I went up against my buddy Adam. So
Okay.
regardless, there's going to be an Adam in the toilet bowl.
Ah.
And Kyle played one of the other former champions, and the loser would play me in the toilet bowl. And Kyle won, so he doesn't have to play in the toilet bowl. So it's me and Mike Dolph in the toilet bowl.
Wow.
Yeah, rough season for both of us. But brother Aaron, is in the championship games.
Ooh.
So that should be interesting.
Who's he going up against?
He's going up against Becca.
Oh, okay.
So our first female in the championship game. So
Cool.
none of the ladies have won the championship yet. So I think a lot of people are pulling for her to beat Aaron. So
Okay, well, that's enough for the fantasy football talk for today. We come to you each week from the fabulous World of Football Man Cave, located right here in the center of the football world, Kalamazoo, Michigan. We're here to promote the game of football in all its many forms, past, present, and future. Our goal is to educate, inform, and entertain our listeners with the glorious buffet that is the world of football. All this while keeping a close eye on the rich history of the game. Thanks for checking out our podcast. We'd love to get your feedback on one of our many platforms: Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. So you can simply ask your Alexa device to play the World of Football podcast. We also have timestamps down in the descriptions of both the podcast and many of our YouTube videos, so you can go right to the topics you really want to listen to. You can also find our podcast in its full audio form on our YouTube channel. Just search for The World of Football Kalamazoo or use the handle @The World of Football in the YouTube search bar. You'll find over 475 videos on our YouTube channel, including Just Lying Around, the Lions-Bears preview and recap that were posted last week. Our weekly NFL picks for Week 16 were also posted, and last night we had the honor of being on the Turf Tapes, episode number 3, on Off the Wall, which was a live stream where we got to relive one of the greatest football games of our life.
yeah,
That was the 2001 Arena Bowl 15 with the Grand Rapids Rampage taking on the Nashville Cats.
Yep.
And boy, I remember a lot about that game, but I don't remember everything.
there's a couple things that stood out. I mean, we even had to stop. There was a double pass play for a touchdown.
I do
in
not
that
remember
game.
that
Don't
play.
remember that at all either, but that was incredible to kind of relive. Like, oh, did that just happen? Like, that's incredible that happened during that game, because there was so much. So yeah, that's over on Off the Wall's YouTube channel, everybody. So @Off the Wall FB, go check that out. Trey's great. I love, we've gotten to talk to Trey a couple times now. We had him, obviously, we talked to him about indoor football earlier this year, and then we hopped over on his channel for this, and it was a lot of fun. He's doing some great stuff over there. Did a sweatshirt giveaway.
Yep.
So we did a lot in a couple hours span. It was a lot of fun.
It was like an hour. Was it an hour and a half?
It was 2 hours.
It was 2.5 hours. Yes,
Yeah.
we started at 7 and we got done around 9:30.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great though. I mean, watching that old game for the first time in years,
Yeah.
and your stream not breaking up. I was shocked, to be honest with you, that you didn't drop out of the stream or had to get up and go to the bathroom at all.
Yeah. I was drinking that Mountain Dew. I didn't go to sleep very soon last night. I was all jacked up on Mountain Dew.
I was just all excited and jacked up from the experience. I had a lot of fun doing it.
It was fun.
We might, I won't say we'll do a whole lot of live streams like that on our end, but I mean, it makes me curious at how that would work. Now that you clearly can handle that on your end, maybe it's more possible than I thought. But it was a great time. Like I said, go over there. We'll put a link to the video down in the description of this podcast and video if you're watching, as well as finding Trey, because it was awesome. Trey does a great job over there, and everybody should subscribe and follow him.
Well, and if we didn't wear out our welcome last night, he might ask us back to do another one here.
Maybe, yeah, I would totally be down to do another one. I gave him a couple ideas after we got done recording that he should try out that I think would be gold, but we won't mention that here. You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
he surprised us with a few things, and I think I surprised him and you with a few things I did during the.
You hammed it up, Randy. Typical Randy.
Hey,
make it about you.
It's all about the clicks, and it's all about making a short or a
You've been hanging
meme or
around
something.
Kyle too much.
But no, it was a lot of fun and just a really, really good time. And Trey made it real easy for us.
Trey did. Like I
he
said,
did all the work on his end.
Trey is one of the best personalities, I think, in the arena football sphere. I mean, shoot, the football sphere in general. I like just watching Trey, listening to his podcast when I can. So Trey does some good stuff over there, and he's got a lot of stuff down the pipeline and stuff he wants to do that he was telling us about that if he can do, I think would be huge.
Yeah.
So very excited for him. I think he's about to have a big 2025.
Let's hope so for him.
Yeah. And then upcoming videos, just lying around, Kyle and I will be doing our 49ers recap. But he'll do the preview at some point during the holiday break because the Lions don't play till Monday night. So that gives Kyle a little leeway. And then we'll see how if we're going to wait till Monday night because him and I don't have to work the next day.
Ooh.
So we could probably stay up late and record a video. I don't know how he's going to feel or we'll see how that goes.
How much Mountain Dew can you guys keep on hand? To maybe
Him,
do it afterwards?
infinite supply. Me, I don't think I'm allowed to have Mountain Dew in the house.
Oh.
You can't have that with a 10-year-old.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. And then our weekly NFL picks, we're going to record that sometime today on Christmas Eve. We're recording at about 12:30 in the afternoon for a change.
Yeah,
this is nice.
About 4 hours earlier than we normally do.
So we'll get the picks video up tonight as well for everybody's Christmas viewing pleasure because there's 2 Christmas games this week.
Yeah.
We'll see how that Netflix stream does. I'm sure we'll have to end up talking about that next week.
Yeah.
But so that's all the videos we got coming up the pipe.
All right. Well, let's begin our weekly tour around the world of football, and we're going to start off this week with scores from the first round of the college football playoffs. I guess that's me, huh? All right, the FBS playoffs round 1. On Friday night, it was number 7 Notre Dame taking on number 10 Indiana and coming out with the win, 27-17.
Did you watch this?
I watched a good share of this game. Little disappointed that Indiana didn't give them a better fight.
Yeah,
but
that score, it's only a 10-point. That game was not as close as that score looked.
No.
I feel bad. I had my Indiana shirt on we got from Cousin Nathan.
Yep.
And I don't know if you saw the post from the college football playoff Instagram page, but Nathan was featured putting the little decals on the helmets. You did see that?
Yep, I saw that picture, and in fact, I saw Nathan yesterday. I talked to him.
Oh yeah,
and he said, that's. I said, what were you doing in that picture? He goes, I was putting the stickers on. So
hey, what a cool job! I mean, it was pretty sweet to see, and I mean, bummed for Indiana, but I mean, still their best season they've ever had.
Oh yeah,
you were in the first ever 12-team playoff.
Yep.
It is just, I mean, the sucky thing about that, though, that loss is now everybody's going to be saying, like, oh, these teams that lose in the first round didn't deserve to be in. They should have been to other teams. Like, look, it is what it is. Yeah. Indiana just didn't play their best game that day. They got outplayed, and we kind of figured that's what this first round would be. And to be honest with you, a little disappointed with this first round. I kind of I was so excited for this whole, format and all that I was thinking to myself, maybe this should just be an 18 playoff. The way college football is now, I mean, seriously, the way like the teams are kind of stacked in certain conferences still, even with the transfer portal, like while it's kind of leveled the playing field in some aspects, I feel like the best teams are still a cut above everybody, and maybe it should only be like an 8-team. I think 8 teams max now. Yeah. I might be changing my tune. I might be more like, let's go back to 8. Let's trim it down to 8 because 12 might be too
never
much.
Going back.
Well, they're not going back
it's
anymore.
They've
opened the box. It's now. Yeah. They're already talking 14 or 16 next year.
Yeah, possibly 14 by next year.
I mean, I don't know. We'll see if the parity can continue to improve around college football, like where, your Oregons or your Alabama start coming down, and your Indianas and your like Northwesterns or whatever start kind of coming up, and like the water reaches level. Then maybe a 12-team would be a little more viable. But I don't know. We'll see how the rest of this playoff plays out. There's still a couple teams in the final 8 that like Boise and Arizona State that they could do something. Then maybe I'll change my tune. But if it's another shellacking on a couple schools that you're like, did they even deserve to be there?
Yeah,
it's going to be something to look at. And the fact that the seedings or that the matchups don't reseed going into the next round is something else too. Because we'll talk about the next round in a second, but I'm just like, man, I don't know about some of these matchups because I feel like some teams got it easier than others.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So then on Saturday, the three other games were played. Number 5 Texas defeated number 12 Clemson 38-24. I didn't see that game at all.
I didn't either, but this sounded like the one that was maybe the closest or the more entertaining game. But even then, a 14-point win for Texas, goodness gracious.
Yeah. Number 6 Penn State defeated number 11 SMU 38-10.
You watch this one at all?
Didn't see much of that either.
I watched this. I thought SMU was handling Penn State pretty great to start out because it started off Penn State's first 14 points were both pick sixes. So I was like, okay, so SMU's defense came to play for the beginning of the game, but that SMU quarterback he would drive him down the field a little bit, and you'd be like, okay, maybe SMU's got a shot here, and then he'd throw a terrible pick. And you're just like, what in the world has happened? I think he threw 3 interceptions in the first half. Just looked uncomfortable. Looked like maybe the moment was too big. And you hate saying that for these kids, but it just that Penn State atmosphere. And that's something else about this first round. You know, the home playoff games is the one factor I actually like how packed those stadiums were, how loud those stadiums were. And how many opposing fans even got to show up to the game like we talk about in the next game. But for SMU, I mean, good story. Kind of sucks that, you couldn't put up a little more of a fight. But Penn State's also very good.
Yeah. And then finally, number 8 Ohio State defeated number 9 Tennessee 42-17. I think I watched this for a hot minute, and then
it got to the point where I was like, I can't anymore. All these games just at a point you're just like new. It was like, it's done.
Yeah,
it's done. So I think I did something else after that. But I mean, a lot of Tennessee fans showed up for that game though. So kudos to them for showing up. But man, Ohio State just played like they should have played against Michigan. Like they were doing a lot that I was like, where was this during that Michigan game? Not that I wanted Ohio State to win, but it's like this was what you were capable of, Ohio State, and what happened. So I don't know. We'll see. The next matchups though should be very interesting as well.
Yeah, well, you look at these 4 games that were played last weekend. Notre Dame, South Bend, cold, snowy. Penn State, cold, snowy. Ohio State, cold and snowy. The only one that was in a decent temperature was the Texas game.
Right.
So, I mean, that's kind of a home field advantage for those northern schools that are used to that and have been playing in it for the last month or so. And now they got these teams from down south, SMU, Tennessee not so much, but Clemson, coming up there.
I mean, in college, a home field is a true advantage. Yes. It's incredible. So, think about if in the future you have a Miami of Florida coming up to Penn State or something crazy like that, and that weather, or Notre Dame and that weather, how will a good team actually handle that? Not that the teams that played in that first round were bad, the away teams, but it's just, Indiana plays in cold weather too, and it,
right.
It's still I don't know how much of a factor it was.
I don't think much of it. I don't think weather was a factor.
But it is interesting. I like the aspect of the home playoff games, and I know now they become neutral site games. They kind of become the bowl games. I wonder if maybe the whole college football playoff should get away from being in those bowl games and just be home games until the championship or the semifinals. Then you do your big 4 bowl games going into the national championship, or the 2 big bowl games going into a national championship.
Well, like I was telling you before we started recording here, I did not even realize until just a few days ago that the quarterfinal games were going to be during the big 4 bowl games: the Fiesta Bowl, Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Peach Bowl. I just assumed they were going to be separate games on their own, and that the bowls were not a part of the playoffs.
That. I knew that. And
okay.
If you would watch the college football playoff commercial they came out with explaining all of that in song, Randy, you would have learned that.
Well, I was just going by what I think it's NFL or no college football on Fox. They have a Twitter feed, and that's where I get my graphics from, and I repost them on our timelines. And they didn't say where the quarterfinal games were going to be when they first came out with the bracket. They just showed, okay, if you win here, then you're going to play this team, and then it goes. And so it wasn't until they really updated it with all the final teams that it said this one's going to be the Fiesta Bowl, this one's going to be this bowl. So that was a shock to me. So anyway, the quarterfinals are now set, and New Year's Eve you've got the Fiesta Bowl where number 3 Boise State is going to take on number 6 Penn State. And then on January 1st, you have the other 3 big bowl games. The Rose Bowl is going to feature number 1 Oregon and number 8 Ohio State.
That's going to be a great game. I
yep.
mean, Ohio State lost just barely to Oregon that last time they played up in Eugene.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Ohio State will pull this one out or if Oregon's just gotten better. Like this, it should be a great matchup.
Yeah. Also on January 1st, the Sugar Bowl, number 2 Georgia versus number 7 Notre Dame. That should be another.
That should also be another good game.
Yep. And then finally the Peach Bowl, number 4 Arizona State versus Texas. That's not a bad matchup either.
I don't think any of these are bad matchups. I'm curious about the Boise State Penn State, just because Boise State is the definite, even though they're the 3 seed, they are the definite underdog.
Right.
Arizona State's the underdog to Texas. There's going to be an upset.
Yeah.
One of these games, upset in terms of the brand name. I think Arizona State might be able to beat Texas, to be honest with you. The way Arizona State's been playing, I would almost pick Arizona State to win that game. I think Penn State will beat Boise State, but I still think that the running back there, whose name escapes me at the moment, the Heisman runner-up.
I can't.
I forget his name. I feel bad. I don't have it written down, but he might still have a game against that Penn State defense. So we'll see what happens. Anything can happen now. I mean, that's why you play the games, right? So I think this next round should be a lot more entertaining.
Genty?
Yeah, Aubrey Genty, or I think that was
Ashton
Genty.
Ashton Genty, yes. Okay.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then moving on to some other bowl games that have already been played this past week. Last Tuesday, after we signed off from our podcast, it was the Frisco Bowl, where Memphis defeated West Virginia 42-37. On Wednesday, it was the LA Bowl, number 24 UNLV over California 24-13. On Wednesday, it was the Boca Raton Bowl, James Madison over Kentucky 27-17. Thursday, it was the New Orleans Bowl, which saw Sam Houston over Georgia Southern 31-26. 2 bowl games on Friday, the Gasparilla Bowl, Florida over Tulane 33-8, and the Cure Bowl, Ohio over Jacksonville State 30-27. And then there were 2 games last night on Monday night. The Idaho Potato Bowl, Northern Illinois over Fresno State 28-20 in double overtime. I didn't see any of that game. In fact, I didn't see hardly any of these bowl games at all. But congratulations to all the teams that won. And then finally last night, it was the Myrtle Beach Bowl, University of Texas at San Antonio, the Roadrunners, over Coastal Carolina 44-15. And it continues tonight with the Hawaii Bowl, South Florida versus San Jose State. So, yeah, we'll have that score and more next week for all the ones that are going over Christmas and New Year's weekend. Okay, let's see. A little bit of FBS news. I just saw this this morning. Netflix announced that it is in production on a season-long series that follows college football teams in the SEC that was filmed during the 2024 season. I had not heard anything about this until just today. It's going to be 8 45-minute episodes, the series is, and it's going to premiere sometime this summer, 2025. So, yeah, it's like everybody's got to do a series, whether it's Hard Knocks or whether it's in-season Hard Knocks. Or
Netflix is definitely capitalizing on the sports stuff.
Sure.
I mean, between quarterback, then receiver.
Yep.
They got a bunch of other documentaries I'm sure we'll talk about. Well, I don't know if we'd have the one in the NFL that we were going to talk about. You kind of poo-pooed it when I sent you the story about the other sports docuseries. Yeah, you.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember what it was.
Oh, we'll
whatever
talk
it was,
about
I didn't like it.
We'll talk about it. I'll bring it up later because that's for the NFL. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So moving on to the FCS division, these were the playoff semifinals. Both of them on Saturday. It was number 1 Montana State over number 4 South Dakota, 31-17. And number 2 North Dakota State over number 3 South Dakota State, 28-21. So that sets up the FCS National Championship game, which will be played on January 6th in Frisco, Texas. Number 1 Montana State versus number 2 North Dakota State. That should be a pretty good game because North Dakota State has won, 11 out of the last 12 or 13 national titles. And so, yeah, that should be a really good game on January 6th. In some FCS news, I thought this was interesting that I saw the other day. The Ivy League has voted to allow its schools and its students to participate in the FCS playoffs. And this isn't just football, it's all sports, from what I understand. For the first time ever since the Ivy League was formed back in the 50s, they have never, ever participated in anything postseason. They do their regular season, they call it good, the kids go back to class. But now, a lot of the students were the ones that were campaigning for this. And they went to they made a proposal to the school presidents of the 8 Ivy League schools, and they listened to what they had to say, and they finally said, you know what, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Surprised this hasn't happened sooner, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Especially with all that money floating around in college football now.
Yeah. So they're going to be in the FCS playoffs starting next year.
Right on.
So
that should be exciting.
Yeah, I would assume that starts after the end of this school year.
Yeah.
So yeah, starting next fall, all their sports will be able to participate in the playoffs if they're good enough. So cool. I'd be, I'm up for rooting for a Harvard here and there, or a
Harvard Yale championship game.
I don't know if they'll have a championship game, but they just determine who has the best record at the end of the season. Many times the Ivy League title is shared by a couple of teams, so maybe they will come up with a
I just mean
now.
like they'll be able to participate in the playoffs, so
right?
They could end up in the championship game, depending on how that bracket falls. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Have faith, Randy.
Just throw them into the mix, and we'll see where it goes. But at least they'll get an extra game or two.
Yeah.
Okay, and another FCS story. Michael Vick has been named the head coach at the FCS Norfolk State, which is an HBCU school. Vick actually has no coaching experience, but he did grow up near that school about a half hour away.
Yeah.
So he's familiar with it, and I think they're trying to recapture the magic of Deion Sanders taking an HBCU school to, turning it around and whatnot. So, I mean, he's got no coaching experience. Why would you take a risk like that?
I think when you're a school like that, you get a name. Maybe he's been wanting to get into coaching. He's been studying. He's been
I
don't know. I think people who want to get into that have thought it out and planned. You don't just go, I'm going to go be a head coach somewhere. Like you got to have a plan. You got to have guys in mind that could cover all your bases. Your coordinators and other staff members. So. Clearly, he's been around enough, and he's been in the media scene for a little bit, so he's probably got some connections. And shoot, why not? If there's a spot to get your toes wet, it's at a HBCU school. I mean, that's exactly what Deion did. You cut your teeth there,
right,
and see what happens. Maybe the first year isn't great, but you learn from it, and then you get better at it, and maybe people flock there for playing for Michael Vick.
Yeah, that's true.
So
be good for recruiting.
Good for recruiting. So I think it's a win-win for the school. Maybe if you don't win any games, you at least get some recruiting because you got Michael Vick as your head coach for at least 2 or 3 years, depending on how he does. I mean, if anything, it's you got nowhere to go but up.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you have a bad ceiling, the floor is just okay, but your ceiling could be who knows.
Yeah. But with any coach, it's all about who you hire as your assistants. If you get a bunch of really good assistants, they'll make you look that much better as a head coach. So I think it's important that
and I'm sure we'll hear
get the
about
right
some
people
other,
around him.
I bet you we'll hear some other former NFL names that could join him there.
Could be.
Look how Warren Sapp joined Deion in Colorado. So I think we could hear about some other names.
Yeah,
it should be interesting.
We shall see. We'll keep an ear out for anything that goes on there at Norfolk State. Moving on to the Division II National Championship game, the Ferris State Bulldogs defeated the Valdosta State Blazers 49-14 in McKinney, Texas. This is the third Division II title for Ferris State since 2018. Your Uncle Bob is a pretty excited guy right now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He went to school there.
I caught a little bit of this game. Ferris State just looked great.
Yeah.
We were trying to debate what our 3 stories were going to be. This was the third one I kept blanking on. What was the third one I wanted? It was this. I wanted to put Ferris State on the graphic, but too late now. But hey, congratulations to Ferris State. Man, they've been a juggernaut the last few years.
Yep. I've never been to a game up there, and I've been wanting to take your Uncle Bob back to Ferris to his old college and do just go to a game up there. Yeah, because he marched in band when he was going to school up there. So we'll see. Maybe we'll still do that sometime.
Am I sniffing some Ferris State content, Randy, for 2025?
Who knows? Let's see. Moving on to the Division III playoffs. This was their semifinal weekend this past weekend. 2 games on Saturday. It was North Central of Illinois shutting out Susquehanna. Get this, 66-0 in a semifinal game. Oh my gosh, Susquehanna! What'd you do? You couldn't have gotten this far and be that bad.
Right.
I don't know what happened.
Was North Central just that good?
I don't know. We'll find out next week when North Central takes on Mount Union, which defeated Johns Hopkins by the score of 45-37. So those 2 winners are going to meet on January 5th in the Amos Alonzo Stag Bowl, Mount Union versus North Central of Illinois, and that game is going to be played in Houston, Texas. Moving on to the NAIA National Championship game. Also on Saturday, the Grandview Vikings defeated the Kaiser, or is it Keiser? I keep saying Kaiser, but I think it might be Keiser. Seahawks from Florida by the score of 35-7 in Durham, North Carolina. This is the second title for Grandview in their school history. They won one back in 2013, and I believe it was the same head coach that was his rookie season in 2013, and he won a national title. Now he's won it again all these years later. And finally, in college football, the last of the National Junior College Athletic Association Championship games. This one was on Wednesday, middle of the week last week. The Division I National Championship for community colleges. It was the Hutchinson Blue Dragons over the Iowa Western Reavers by the score of 28-23. This game was played in Canyon, Texas, and this is Hutchinson's second national title since 2021. So I thought that was a cool nickname. That's why I wanted to include the nicknames on the championship games. You know, the Hutchinson Blue Dragons and the Reavers. I had to look up what Reavers were years ago. I don't remember what it was now, but I do remember that team nickname. And Grandview Vikings, Keezers, Seahawks. They got some cool names down there in Division III. So the only college football left is the FBS level and the title game for Division III and FCS. So that's all we got, and those aren't until January. So it'll just be the bowl games next week that we're going to have to report. So college football is finally winding down in this country. All right, so now we're going to move on to the NFL, and we're going to turn things over to Adam for that.
That's right, everybody. It was Week 16. Can you believe it? We are getting near the end of the regular season. Playoff spots are getting locked up, and still a lot of good, interesting football being played across this great league that we follow. And it all started on Thursday night football this past week, which saw the Denver Broncos, as my app is jittery, as the Denver Broncos fell to the Los Angeles Chargers 34-27. I was watching this. It looked like Denver had a handle on this game. Then I went to bed and found out the Chargers came back and won.
Yeah.
But, this game was pretty entertaining because if you were watching in the first half, through a sequence of events, the Chargers eventually punted the ball. Or no, the Broncos punted the ball to the Chargers, and the guy fair caught it as time expired and then got run into by a Denver player. So there's a whole lot of confusion there for a minute because it tacked on 15 yards, and yes, the Chargers would get an extra play, and that gave them the option to do a free, what do they call it, a fair free kick? The fair catch free kick.
Yeah, fair catch free kick.
So, and it was a whole lot of confusion. I don't know if Jim Harbaugh knew about this rule or how this all worked out, but it was a crazy sequence of events. So the ball was moved up 15 yards from where the guy caught it. Because I guess if you fair catch it at the end of the half like that, you can have the option to do a free kick and get one more play. Or I think you just get a play in general, but you have that option to
either kick it or just run a play.
Kick it or run a play. So they opted to do the free kick. And for the first time since 1976, Dicker the kicker made this kick for the Chargers. And the last time it happened, it was also the Chargers who nailed the free kick back in 76. So what a weird, wild way to end that half. And I was watching some clips from a Broncos fan live streaming the game, and he had no idea what was going on. He's like, what's happening? Why is Jim Harbaugh allowed to do that? Like, he was just confused as to what was happening. This rule, it's something we've never seen in a lot of our lifetimes.
Yeah, I knew that this was a possibility. I couldn't have told you what the circumstances would have been for this to happen.
It's so rare to happen.
And I obviously I don't think I've ever seen one.
I think the last time it came close was a London game where the Carolina Panthers did a free kick, but they missed it, so it wasn't even made. Or the Buccaneers. It was Bucks and Panthers, and it was missed. This was like 2019, maybe 2020, I forget. But the fact that this happened was wild. I wonder now if more people are going to try to do this because at the end of a half, all you had to do is fair catch a punt. How often are people punting
and then get run into?
Yeah, not even the run into. They could kick it from wherever they fair catch it, but usually the field position doesn't make sense because you fair caught it at your 20. Why would you try to free kick it from there?
Right. Yeah.
Unless you got a kicker with a big boom in the leg.
Yeah.
then maybe you try to give it a shot. But how accurate do you got to be then? So
Yeah.
that's why you don't see that play a whole lot.
I did see a picture of the kicker from that 1976 game standing next to the kicker that just kicked it the other night. So they got the two kickers together from those two historic games,
Dang.
and they were standing. And I think they each had a football with the year, on it that they made those kicks.
That's awesome.
I should have retweeted it, but I didn't. But I did see that, so it's out there.
Way to go, Randy. Way to botch that one. All right, then we had 2 Saturday games this past week. The first one saw the Kansas City Chiefs defeat the Houston Texans 27-19. That ankle didn't look like it bothered Patrick Mahomes at all. I saw him run for a touchdown.
Yeah,
so
I told you.
I don't know if that injury's fake or not.
He plays better when he has a bad ankle.
Maybe. But for Houston, though, they lost wide receiver Tank Dell to a scary injury in the end zone. He caught the touchdown pass, but then he's ruled out for the rest of the season with the injury. I forget what it was. He twisted his knee or something, so it didn't look good. So they carted him off the field after he caught the touchdown pass. So kind of a bittersweet moment where it's like, yeah, I got the touchdown, but now my season's over. And then that Saturday night saw the Baltimore Ravens just take care of the Pittsburgh Steelers 34-17. Pittsburgh, I mean, they look like they'll still get in the playoffs, but man, they did not look great against the Ravens at all. Then Sunday, the Falcons, we didn't talk about this. They benched Kirk Cousins last week.
Oh, yes, they did.
Michael Penix Jr. Making the start for the Atlanta Falcons, and he led the Falcons to a 34-7 victory over the New York Giants. And through other circumstances that we'll get to, but essentially the Giants now hold the spot for the number 1 pick as of right now.
Okay.
So we'll see what they end up doing with that. The Carolina Panthers and the Arizona Cardinals went to overtime, and the Cardinals ended up blowing this game as the Panthers got the 36-30 win. Yeah, I can't believe the sequence of events for this either. The Cardinals had a shot. They were moving the ball, and they had a few penalties that brought them back. Then they had to punt it to the Panthers, and the Panthers just ran a couple plays, and then finally Chuba Hubbard ran for a touchdown to seal that game up.
15, 20 yards or so
it was
to the
longer
end
than
zone.
that, it looked like.
Was it?
But yeah, it was a nice run.
Yeah.
The Indianapolis Colts defeated the Tennessee Titans 38-30. Did you see the stat line from Anthony Richardson from this game?
No, I did not.
He was 7 of 11. He completed 7 passes for this game, and they won 38-30. It was a lot of running. I think Jonathan Taylor, after he dropped that ball at the 1-yard line last week, he was holding on to the ball for sure when he crossed that goal line. He had over 200 yards rushing on 26 carries, I want to say. So a nice day for him. Matt Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams got a win in New York against the Jets, 19-9. A very ugly game there, too. Then the Detroit Lions defeated the Chicago Bears 34-17. Jared Goff, who apparently can't play in cold weather, played pretty well in cold weather, I would say.
He's had some of his best games in cold weather. The game up at Green Bay 2 years ago, and it wasn't the opener in Kansas City. That wasn't cold, but
no, he's
done
shaking
well.
off that
Yes.
since his first year, because he had a bad game in Chicago his first year in Detroit. But I think since then he's kind of shaken off of the can't play in cold weather narrative. I hope we finally get rid of that. Goff can just play. Sometimes you have a bad game, but he didn't here. Threw 3 touchdown passes, 300-something yards, and one of his touchdowns was a remarkable fake fumble touchdown. What was going through your head?
Everybody that saw that assumed that he actually did stumble, and because the running back fell down. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh my God, here we go again, just like the play where he fell down handing the ball off to Montgomery a couple games ago. And I thought, oh my God, can't this guy keep his feet? And then after they showed it several times and they started saying, well, I think this was real, or this was a fake. And then you look at it and go, oh my God, that was a design play.
Yeah, it took a minute to realize
to freeze the
it was
linebackers.
a design play.
Yeah,
because I thought the same thing. But Jahmyr Gibbs sold it in the back.
Oh,
he just dove to the ground oh no. Then I guess the Lions players on the sidelines shouted fumble, so they were all somehow in on it. So you could hear them if you're listening to the guy. You hear fumble or ball.
No, I
ball.
didn't hear that.
Oh yeah, it was orchestrated. And somebody pointed out how orchestrated do you have to be? Because not all the players on the sideline know what plays you're calling. So coaches had to go around and be like, hey, guys, we're going to run this play finally. And apparently they were going to run that play earlier in the game, but they checked out of it. So
is that the old fumble Rooski?
No, shut up. It's not. Apparently, did you see the side by I
wonder if that play has a name.
Ben John, I think they called it the stumble bumble.
Oh. That's a terrible name.
It's a terrible name. But Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for Detroit, got the idea from a game that happened to the Bears last year against the Packers, where Jordan Love actually fumbled it and was still able to throw the ball to his tight end, who was wide open. Didn't get a touchdown, but it was a big gainer. So that's where he got the idea from. So out there, I've seen the side-by-side of the two videos, and it's pretty awesome. Who thinks of that? Because I guess Ben Johnson went to Goff during the week and was like, hey, how do you feel about fumbling the ball and picking it back up and then throwing it? Goff's like, I'm not athletic enough to do that. So they instead worked on like his fake trip and all that. So
instead of a fumble, it was a stumble.
What madman thinks of this? Like, Ben Johnson has just been something else for the Lions.
They should do a highlight reel of all the trick plays and unusual things just for the Lions.
It just keeps growing.
At the end of the season, yeah, there's one every week.
It's obsolete every week.
There's some play that they put in that's an intentional trick play that they're just running for the hell of it. Because that's the kind of season they've been having.
And people were complaining like, "Oh, why would you pull this play out on the Bears when you got big games coming up?"
Because they can.
And it goes back to what Ben Johnson says. He's like, "The well runs deep. We're not worried about showing them anything because guess what? We'll come up with something even better than down the line. We got stuff in the bag you guys don't even know about." So I'm very anxious to see what kind of stuff they will pull out in games that actually matter.
Yeah.
Like, and if it comes down to that Minnesota game in a couple weeks, or maybe even next week against San Francisco to get a little revenge, even though the Niners are eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah.
But Caleb, look, can we talk about Caleb Williams for a hot second? Caleb Williams looked pretty good for the most part for the Bears.
Yeah, he's still good at running and scrambling around and avoiding the sack.
And he didn't throw any interceptions, so he doesn't turn the ball over except for the fumble, which I think that ball got stuck to his glove. Like, the one where he went to hand it off to Odunze and it like bounced out. Like, I don't know if it was just cold and maybe it just got stuck to his glove a hair too long because it was in Odunze's chest. And then when he went to go pull the ball back, it was like still stuck on his glove.
Oh, okay.
Like. So I wonder maybe that's what happened there. But then Odunze later fumbled again. So a couple of crucial turnovers to start that game off for the Bears. Otherwise, I thought the Bears still moved the ball around pretty well despite how crappy they are.
Yeah, and the Lions are undefeated on the road this season.
Yeah,
they're 7-0 on the road, which, when's the last time you ever heard of Lions being a road warriors like that?
I don't. They got one more game. If they can go undefeated on the road this season, that'd be a heck of an achievement.
Yeah.
And then with the victory as well, the Lions get their 13th win in franchise history during a season, setting a record. First time it's ever happened. Never in my lifetime have I seen.
50 years I've been waiting to see a 13-win season, and finally it happened after 50
clearly
years.
Last year they got 14 wins,
right?
Because
of the playoffs, yes.
But 13 wins in a regular season is nuts.
Right.
And what's even nuttier is that a 14-win team could potentially not host a home game in the postseason. That's going to be nuts.
Could be like a 5th seed or something.
I think at best the Lions can be the 1. At the worst, the Lions could be a 5 seed, depending on how everything shakes out.
Same with Minnesota.
Who we'll talk about shortly. But we also got to talk about this next game as the Washington Commanders shocked the Philadelphia Eagles 36-33.
I was so rooting for them.
I was rooting for the Commanders.
They pulled it off.
They were blowing it for a second. I was like, come on. They threw a pick.
Yeah.
Then the Eagles went down and kicked another field goal to go up by 6. And then Washington was able to drive the ball, get the touchdown with 6 seconds left, and win the game. But what doesn't help, and I mean, people will be like, well, the quarterback for the Eagles got hurt. Jalen Hurts did suffer a concussion during the game and was out. I think it was 11 plays into the game, and then he was out.
Was it that early in the game?
I guess so, from what I understand. I didn't catch the beginning of the game because we were clearly watching the Lions.
Yeah, sure.
But I was grateful that they were able to turn the game over to the Commanders game after the Lions game.
Any word on Jalen Hurts? If he'll be
I'm sure
back
he's in
this week
percussion protocol. Could be. We'll find out probably during the week what they're going to do with that and how that works out. So we'll see if they get their quarterback back. They got a couple games coming up, against division foes. That I think one's against the Giants, one's against the Cowboys. So I won't say an easy road for the Eagles, but I mean, depends on if Jalen Hurts plays or not too. He's a big factor that they're winning.
Yeah.
So, the Bengals beat the Browns 24-6. The Minnesota Vikings defeated the Seattle Seahawks 27-24. Thanks for nothing, Seattle.
Seattle had them on the ropes too towards the end of that game and couldn't.
Yeah, they couldn't seal it up.
threw an interception at the end while they were driving for the winning score or whatever.
Speaking of keeping them on the ropes, the New England Patriots had the Buffalo Bills on the ropes for much of
Yeah.
that game. Didn't see that coming, but the Bills were able to pull it out 24-21. The Las Vegas Raiders destroyed their Shedeur Sanders stock by getting the victory against the Jags. They beat the Jags 19-14.
Yeah, they had the number 1 pick at that.
They were, yeah, because of the
that.
win. They dropped up to pick number 6.
Really?
Yeah.
That far?
So, yeah, the victory cost them 5 spots.
Oh,
So,
yeah, celebrate that in your locker room.
I mean, that's the sucky part about being bad.
I know.
You're like, well, the number 1 pick would be nice, but you also don't want to,
right.
if you're going to get a
You
guy.
still wanna win
You'll
games.
still get a guy. Maybe it'll be, I think oftentimes it works out for teams no matter where you end up
Sure.
picking in the first round. So,
Sure.
I don't know. It is what it is. People complain about them giving up the number 1 spot, but whatever. The San Francisco 49ers fell to the Dolphins 29-17. Sunday Night Football saw the Dallas Cowboys get a big victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 26-24. A bit of a surprise on that game.
Yeah.
But Dallas ended up getting eliminated regardless earlier in the day before that game was played. And then on Monday Night Football last night, the Green Bay Packers defeated the New Orleans Saints 34-0, which, funny enough, we're 16 weeks or just wrapping up 16 weeks of NFL football. That's our first shutout of the year.
Yeah.
Hard to believe that.
I had to say, I looked at that and I said, what? Oh, first one this whole season?
I know, isn't that crazy?
It is. It's crazy.
So that is your scores for the week, but we got a couple little things to talk about.
Did you say the Packers clinched the playoff spot too?
I did not say that, but they clinched the playoff spot with the win. I was going to actually pull up. You got all the teams that were eliminated there in your spreadsheet, but I was going to actually pull up the NFL's playoff scenario stuff right now just to kind of look at that.
Yeah, there's 6 eliminated teams in each conference now.
Okay.
Do you want to list them off?
Well, you sure can, but I'm pulling up the thing right now. So let's see. And their website is not working.
Well, in the AFC, it's the Jets, Browns, Jaguars, Titans, Patriots, and Raiders that have been eliminated. And in the AFC, it's the Bears, Panthers, Giants, 49ers, Cardinals, and Cowboys who've been eliminated. So there's only a couple openings left, for teams to grab playoff spots.
Yeah, and I don't know why all of a sudden their stuff is not working on their playoff picture on their website.
Well, with 2 weeks to go, things are going to change
That's true, but so that means in the NFC, the teams that have clinched spots are 3 of the NFC North teams.
Right, yeah.
Are for sure in, and the Eagles have clinched their spot. So essentially we're waiting on who's going to win that NFC West and who's going to win that NFC South. That's going to be interesting. I mean, the Rams have the lead there, and now the Falcons back on top of the Buccaneers. So it'll be interesting coming down with 2 games left. And then the AFC, they got a wild playoff picture too. They got a couple teams who could be on the bubble. So, like I said, can't pull up this stupid playoff picture page for the NFL. They're having issues there. So, whatever.
Okay. All right, well, that's it for the NFL news. We're going to move on to some other news, and we're going to move on to the AF1, Arena Football 1, where the Wilkes-Barre team, which was announced about 3 or 4 months ago, finally announced their nickname. And they're going to be known as the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Mavericks. Originally, when they were around many years ago, it was the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Pioneers when they were an AF2 team.
Yeah.
And the logos are somewhat similar. You were talking about that last night.
Did you look at?
I didn't look at it since then, but I saw the original one where it's like a red coat or like a Revolutionary War guy riding a horse, and the horse is running. So I don't know if that's going to be on their helmet, but. Then they have a secondary one, which looks like the original Pioneers helmet, sort of, with the guy with the rifle. And then they've got the flag on the rifle or something.
If you look at the main logo of the guy on the horse, on the guy's satchel, it's got a little P on it, which is a reference to when they were the Pioneers. I thought that was a nice little nod. I understand maybe why they wouldn't go with Pioneers this time around. I don't know if that logo's wrapped up in other trademarks or whatever, but you could still throw that little P in there as a nice little reference and get away with it. So very interesting. I like the name Mavericks. I mean, while you got I think of the basketball team when I hear Mavericks, but I mean for a football team, you don't hear a whole lot of Maverick football teams, so I'm okay with that. And I like the logo. Don't love it, but we'll see what they do and what their uniforms look like. So.
Sure. Kind of a blue and red combination.
Yeah, Americana, red, white, and blue color scheme.
Now, up until this announcement just the other day, they just talked about a team in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, whereas years ago it was Wilkes-Barre Scranton.
Right. Yeah, I didn't think they would add Scranton to the.
Yeah, and I was surprised when the official name is the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Mavericks. So that came out of nowhere to me anyway at the last minute. But I'm fine with that. I kind of assumed that they would at least say Wilkes-Barre Scranton at some point, but they never mentioned it until the actual logo was released.
And another news item that came out of the AF1 the other day was that they announced a partnership with the NS Combine for the 2021 season.
I hadn't seen
the
that.
National Scouting Combine. Yes. Yeah, so they did that yesterday. I think they made that announcement. So Jeff Fisher said it was an opportunity essential to Arena Football 1, and this partnership will give our players even more opportunities. So
good.
AF1 making some great connections, and looking forward to this league. I mean, I'm getting more and more excited to see what kind of product they roll out. We already talked about the Vice deal they got last week, so baby steps. And I'm sure we'll get more stuff after the holidays. So very excited for Arena Football 1.
Yeah. It was funny last night when we were on the Off the Wall live stream. During that Rampage game, Gary Compton received an award.
Yeah.
And he's now the director of player personnel for Arena Football
AF1,
1.
Yeah.
What was the award? It
was the Built Ford Tough Iron Man of the Year.
Iron Man of the Year, yes.
Or something like that. Yeah,
because he looked so young back in 2001.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool.
It was.
Because I remember it going to a Milwaukee Mustang player, but I was like, was it Gary Compton? I couldn't remember until we actually watched it, because I couldn't find that information anywhere. Because I think somebody else won Iron Man of the Year, but this Built Ford Tough was a whole separate award.
Yeah.
So.
And then he went on to play for the Rampage a few years later.
Yep.
So.
That's pretty sweet.
Yep, it was. All right, today's birthdays. December 24th. Wide receiver Davante Adams turns 32 years old today. He played his college football at Fresno State. He was selected in the second round of the 2014 NFL Draft by the Green Bay Packers, and he's currently playing in his 11th NFL season. He was with the Packers from 2014 to 2021. He was with the Las Vegas Raiders from 2022 to earlier this year, and when he was traded to the New York Jets and reunited with Aaron Rodgers. Hopefully he's kind of not happy with that decision after all.
I know he's had a couple good games. Like, they finally kind of look like those two have gotten on track.
Yeah.
I think Aaron Rodgers has actually gotten better the last few weeks, which is, I hate to say, but him and Davante Adams' chemistry is still there. So Davante almost had 200 yards receiving like last week.
Yeah.
So he's doing okay stat wise, I think. But I mean, the team not so much.
And if you believe those commercials, Davante has a Taco Bell in his house. Those are nice commercials. I like those commercials.
Those are fun commercials.
All right, another birthday today. Fullback Mel Triplett, born on this date in 1931. He passed away in 2002 at the age of 70. He played his college football at the University of Toledo and was selected in the 5th round of the 1955 NFL Draft by the New York Giants. He played 8 NFL seasons. He was with the Giants from 1955 to 1960. And the Minnesota Vikings in 1961 and 1962, and he won an NFL title with the Giants in 1956. And finally, halfback Bill Dudley, born on this date in 1921. He passed away in 2010 at the age of 88. He was the first overall pick in the 1942 NFL Draft by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He played for the Steelers in 1942 and then he spent 2 years in the military during World War II. He returned to play for the Steelers in 1945 and 1946. He went on to play for the Detroit Lions from 1947 to 1949, and he finished his playing career with the Washington Redskins in 1950 and 1951. He was elected into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1966. And we also have one obituary this week. This is where we take a moment to honor those who've made the world of football a better place. Today's obituary is that of Bill Miller, a wide receiver in the American Football League for 6 seasons. He's passed away at the age of 84. Miller played college football at Miami of Florida and was selected in the 3rd round of the 1962 NFL Draft by the Minnesota Vikings. He was also selected in the 2nd round of the 1962 AFL Draft by the Dallas Texans. He chose to sign with the Texans, and he played one season in Dallas in 1962. He went on to play for the Buffalo Bills in 1963, and he went on to play for the Oakland Raiders from 1964, and then again in 1960 from 1966 to 68. I couldn't find why he didn't play in 65. I'm assuming an injury possibly, but I don't know for sure. But he won 2 AFL titles during his AFL career, one with the Texans in 1962 and another with the Raiders in 1967. And based on that second one, he also got to play in Super Bowl II with the Raiders, losing to the Green Bay Packers, unfortunately, 33-14. After retiring as a player, Miller spent some time as an assistant coach with the Buffalo Bills. And finally today, we have our upcoming events calendar. This thing's getting shorter all the time. Sunday, January 5th, the Division III championship game, the Amos Alonzo Stag Bowl. It's going to be played in Houston, Texas. The Mount Union Purple Raiders versus the North Central Cardinals of Illinois. The next day, Monday, January 6th, the FCS National Championship game being played in Frisco, Texas. Number 1 Montana State Northern Lights versus the number 2 North Dakota State Bisons. Or I think it's just singular, bison, not bisons, I wrote with an S. Let's see, Monday, January 20th, the College Football National Championship game in Atlanta will be played. That's going to be on ESPN. That's going to be a big game there. And finally, on our upcoming events calendar, Sunday, February 9th, the Super Bowl in New Orleans, Super Bowl 59. I've got a lot of things also on our upcoming events calendar starting in March and April when a lot of the indoor and arena
we got a month or two before we probably start bringing that in.
We'll switch over to that after the Super Bowl, but I'm keeping them there as placeholders. But man, it's never going to stop for us. We were going to take some time off after the Super Bowl, take a couple weeks and kind of rejuvenate ourselves, but it's not going to be that long before we got to get back to covering indoor football.
Hey, no problem. I think the end of February would be a perfect time to take a break. So.
Yeah.
We'll get done with the Super Bowl recap, and then it's off to Cancun, wherever you want to go. I don't know.
I'll go anywhere warm as long as it's south.
All right, Bloomington it is.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's it. Anything else that we need to talk about before we close today's show?
No other breaking news as of right now. All's quiet on a Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Hopefully everybody out there has a fun, safe, Christmas season.
Yep.
We're going to record on New Year's Eve too.
Yeah. Next Tuesday, New Year's Eve.
But it should be interesting. And I think next week, this was kind of a shorter show for us. Next week will probably be another shorter show.
Yeah. Like I said, the scores only going to be a couple of college scores next week, other than the playoff scores and a couple of bowl games. Yeah.
But so hopefully everybody out there has a good Christmas and
Christmas, Kwanzaa. God, there's so many Hanukkah. Yep. A lot of different people.
Festivus.
People celebrating a lot of different ways this time of year. But however you're celebrating, I hope you get to spend time with your family and
watch a lot of football.
Not a lot of family arguments. Just watch some football instead of talking to each other. That's what we do at our house. Okay. That's all the time we've got for this week. If you learned something during this podcast about the incredible amount of diversity that exists in the world of football, then we have done our job. Visit our website at theworldoffootball.com for news, links, upcoming events, original articles, videos, and more. Our email address is info@theworldoffootball.com.
You can also follow The World of Football on Facebook, X, and Instagram. The address for those three are TWOF Kalamazoo. New episodes of this podcast are posted on Tuesdays and are available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. So you can simply ask your Alexa device to play the World of Football podcast to hear us on whatever Alexa devices you may have. You can also find the full audio version of this show on our YouTube page. Just enter The World of Football Kalamazoo or use the handle at The World of Football in that YouTube search bar. So please spread the word, subscribe, rate, review, give us a like, leave us a comment, let us know what you think, and please come be a part of the football conversation.
And remember, folks, some people may love football more than we do, if you can believe that, but nobody, and I mean nobody, loves more football than the two of us guys sitting here in Kalamazoo talking about football. Until next time, when we'll try and do a better job. Yeah, right. I'm Randy Snow.
Have a great holiday season, everybody.
And we'll see you all on New Year's Eve.